We shall guide her and her mates, aid her however we can, but she is now the leader of the North American pack. We are stronger as a unit and have more power at our hands if we remain united. As the new Tri-Alpha, Thalia Lindhoven and her mates Theodore, Raphael, and Mikkel will assure the security of our people for generations to come." As Damien droned on, Mikkel had to admit he was relieved that there was far less pomp and ceremony to the Ascension rites than there had been with the Fae coronation. He could pretty much guarantee that there would have been more festivities if they hadn't crash-landed into a sci-fi flick in the making. But, things being what they were, they only had to put up with standing in front of the government, in a chamber that reminded him of an old-fashioned courtroom, where Thalia's parents pledged to obey their daughter now that she was leader. Barely refraining from scratching his nose where an itch had gathered, Mikkel tried not to appear as bored as he felt. But it was hard. God, was it hard. He had never been one for ceremonies, even when he'd been a simple, humble soldier. The parties he had to attend that required formal dress bored him shitless. But it was part of the job, as much a role he had to play as the one he'd worked for almost 2 decades in the sandbox. But Mikkel would prefer hardcore training to this, without a doubt. "Is that it now?" he asked, sotto voce, aware that he was an inch away from whining. Raph's lips curved into a smirk, and he stared at Mikkel from the corner of his eyes as he murmured, "I think so. I'm not sure. It wasn't like YouTube was around back when her fathers ascended, is it?" Mikkel grumbled, "Sarcasm is the lowest form of wit." "You'd know. You're the king of it." Nudging Raph in the side, and ignoring the stony glares he received from the alphas who sat at the front of the crowd in the stands where they were watching the proceedings, he simply folded his arms across his chest and tried to project how little a fuck he gave about their disapproval. He wasn't about to turn into a total tyrant, but as the leader of the Tri-Alpha Nation, he figured if he wanted to look bored, he could look bored. Especially when they had bigger fish to fry. That fish being a dark god with destructive tendencies. Vulcan was like Angelica from the Rugrats, a spoiled brat in dire need of a spanking. Mikkel, for one, was totally ready to be the one to give the bastard the ass-whooping he deserved. The bastard had messed with them too much now. Not only had Vulcan's mommy issues resulted in the segregation of the oldest people in the world, he was also the reason Mikkel was scared for his baby daughter. He was why Mikkel had to endure this boring-ass ceremony, and he was why Rosa, Thalia's grandmother, had lost her arm in the aftermath of Serafina's birth. Her grandfathers hadn't been injured, but they may as well have been. Every time they returned from the wing that housed the infirmary where Rosa was being monitored, they looked like they were about to weep. That was just the beginning of the injuries. Lycans could heal, had abilities far beyond anything human technology could even begin to imagine, but they couldn't regrow limbs. All around the palace, there were the sights and sounds of people who had been injured after Serafina was brought into this world. And though, technically, that had nothing to do with Vulcan, none of them would exist. Prophecies wouldn't have been uttered, and shit wouldn't have hit the fan if Vulcan hadn't been a prick. So, yeah, Mikkel was totally ready to lay this shit at his door. He felt no guilt whatsoever in trying and sentencing the bastard. In fact, he was ready and raring to rock, and was only enduring this ceremony because it gave them the power to go forth and kick Vulcan's ass. "When can we get out of here? We have shit to do." Mikkel felt a finger prodding his back, nudging him to silence. "Shut up! They can hear you. Their hearing is better than you can believe." "Like I give a fuck," he stated, repeating the words he'd only thought until now. When they glowered at him some more, the alphas at the front and the betas in the back row, he shrugged unapologetically. "We need to get started. There are things we have to do."